Welcome back, everyone, to Midday Super Talk Mississippi. We are at the Mississippi Trade Mart for 100 years of Faith, Family, and Farm Bureau, the centennial celebration of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. Joining us now is Mr. Andy Berry, the president of the Mississippi Cattlemen's Association. Andy, good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you as well.
I was just looking through this booklet here. It is a jam-packed schedule they've got lined up for the weekend.
Yes, sir. It's a big event. Lots of things happening for anybody in agriculture or private property ownership. This is the place to be this weekend to come and see what we've got. Trade booths. We've got a lot of educational events. Livestock shows going on. It's just something for everybody for rural and agricultural parts of Mississippi.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about your association, your members, how they faring with all the headwinds they've had to face the last couple of years.
It's been tough, and particularly this fall. My cattle producers have had kind of a tough fall. We had a drought coming out of the summer.
Yeah.
Forages were kind of tight, and then we had such an early frost in October that we've started having to feed hay and feed a lot sooner than we normally would have, and so it's been a struggle so far this year.
Yeah. What about the upcoming legislative session we've got on the way? It's hard to believe it's a month and a day or so away.
It's coming quick.
Yeah, I know, it does. Anything in particular that you're going to be talking to the legislature about that your members need?
There's a couple of tax issues that we'd like to talk about, maybe getting some exemptions on some agricultural input products that we use. Mainly we want to protect the tax exemptions that we do enjoy when this conversation of the income tax reduction continues on up there this year. We want to make sure we protect those exemptions that we have. And, we always like to pay less taxes. I think that's something that
Sure.
all of us in the country like to do. And so, there's a couple things like that. And the time might not be right this particular session for that, but, we want to stay on guard on that. One thing that's important to us is to make sure that our Extension Service, Mississippi State Extension Service, is properly funded. Our friends at the Ag Department, that they get the monies they need. One of the things that they do that really benefits us is the Ag Theft Bureau.
Yeah.
They're kind of the unsung heroes out there of agriculture in Mississippi, of making sure that property is stolen, it gets recovered. They're out there just primarily focused on that agricultural theft.
What about at the federal level? Anything in particular there?
Well, Farm Bill time is coming up, and so that's something that we're keeping an eye on there. There's a couple of issues there. Some conservation programs that are out there. We do a great job as cattle producers of being conservationists, and so we want to make sure that there's some programs out there called Conservation Stewardship Program, the Environmental Quality Improvement Program. Make sure those are funded well, and that we can be able to enjoy those programs. There's some risk protection program out there that's really of interest to us. It's called Livestock Risk Protection. A lot of the row crop guys, they've got kind of some safety net programs and things that kind of help protect them in some volatile markets. We don't have that in the livestock industry, and we've seen some really, really big black swan events in the livestock markets of the last few years, and so we're trying to look to make some improvements to this livestock protection program that's kind of an insurance on future prices, and to make that fit kind of our model here in the Southeast a little better, to not get too technical in the weeds with that. But, risk protection and conservation are two of the big issues that we're looking for in the Farm Bill coming up.
What about some of the inflationary pressures and just the overall economic obstacles and challenges that the industry's had to deal with? How's that looking these days?
It's just as hard. It's some feed that I'm buying. I was buying a month ago for like 16 cents a pound. It's up to 22 cents a pound now. The last I picked up last week, and that's just in the last 2 months. And so you're seeing that across the board on all of our inputs. And I think we've talked about this before as cattle producers. When our livestock get ready, they need to be sold. You've got maybe a week or so there, but depending on the markets, we can't let them grow like a tree, or we can't put them in a silo like corn or beans or something like that. We've got to sell them. So we're more adverse of risk at these volatile markets, and so it's really a concern for us when we see all these inputs go up.
Yeah. Now what about the industry overall, Andy, in the country? How's it doing?
It's okay. We've had a drought across our country. Unfortunately, due to some herd sell-off, their cow numbers overall in the United States, the herd's going to be lower going into next year. That may mean for some higher calf prices for us coming into 2023. We thought that was going to happen in 22. It didn't quite get there, but as much cows herd reduction that we've had, it's going to be hard not to see where we're not going to have some better prices for our calves next year.
Interesting. Well, what about the global market?
Demand is strong, and that's surprising. Seeing the challenges that we had, particularly coming out of the pandemic, but beef demand continues to grow and outpace, and that's a testament to the product that we produce. We produce what I think is the best protein out there is beef, and so we see demand for it all across the globe.
Yeah. Any concerns about just the push from some, not only in the country but across the world, to just honestly just eliminate beef totally from human consumption?
That's always a concern, and that's something that we try to make sure that we have a seat at the table with those type of places that are having those conversations. Sometimes that our industry gets a little ridiculed for being there, but you need to have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
To make sure that you're representing your point of view and the positives that you do. What's great about cattle and beef is, cattle take a protein, grass, that is otherwise unpalatable for anything else. Mm-hmm. And they take that and they turn that into such a high-quality protein, which is beef, as our finished product, that through the rumination process that no other animal out there is doing. And so, we're really sustainable in what we do and how our cattle thrive and live, in just their being. This is a sustainable model, and so you take across our country, there's so much of the land out there that's not suitable for row crops. And so what it is suitable for is grazing. And so that's the best use of that land, is to be out there and to be grazed and to make the most benefit of that.
That's a great point. And honestly, I don't know that I've ever heard it described that way in the past, Andy. And certainly those that seek to just end the industry, they don't seem to be thinking about that either.
No, it's not. And you can go further a step and look out west and all the fires that we've had.
Yeah.
One of the solutions to that is grazing, is to cut down on that underbrush, and to reduce the fuel load that they have in those western states. And that's something that we've been prevented through several administrations of having full access to a lot of that BLM and Forest Service land that's grazing. That's a huge industry out west, is grazing those government lands.
We've talked with guests earlier today that have concerns about whether or not we're producing new generations of farmers. And just passing down, most of which comes from families that have been in it for a very long time, and they pass that down, and now they're finding that their offspring really don't have an interest in continuing that. Is that a concern for you?
It's a big concern for us, and it's an actual fact that there's a problem there. Here in a minute, we're going to have a speaker come up and talk about succession planning to the next generation.
Yeah.
But we've got to make it rewarding financially.
Sure.
For the next generation to stay involved in that. And that's something that I try to communicate to all politicians at all level. In Mississippi, when you have a healthy agricultural industry, particularly a cow type of industry, we're not pocketing and growing our wealth. What we're doing is we're growing our assets. When we sell our livestock, we turn that money over. We buy more feed, we buy more fence, we buy a tractor, we buy a gate, we buy a truck. That money gets turned over in the community. You can look at the Delta you've seen the growth in large farms and the death of small towns. And so we want to make sure that doesn't happen in our cow-calf part of the state, that we can keep our cow-calf and cattle people healthy, to keep these rural communities and keep the economic growth alive in rural Mississippi.
Yeah, it makes sense. So where does the cattle industry, where does it rank within the overall agriculture industry in the state?
In Mississippi, I think we're 12th or 15th in there. We're kind of down the line in total value of production there. There's some big commodities out there in front of us, but we're respectable. I think around $1 billion of sales that we do a year.
Is it staying fairly level? You see growth or
pretty
decline?
level? It's we've had some sellouts through the last year. It's been challenging with the inputs that you talked about earlier. We've had some sellouts of folks getting older and selling out. But you also see some younger folks that are growing and getting kind of like I talk about, getting larger. In terms terms of their herd and not having those small herds and more people involved in it. So it's just a concern for us.
Yeah. And I guess we just have new generations coming up that are looking for a different lifestyle, but still, you can live in the areas of Mississippi where they could be cattle farmers and still have a pretty dang good lifestyle.
You can, and I do it as a second job. I have a job here in town, and then I go home every night, and by the light of the tractor, my flashlight, I farm, and there's a lot of folks like me out there that do that as a supplemental income. But we do see, and particularly across the state, I see a lot of young folks that are getting into it. It's the asset and the money that it takes to get involved in it. You got to have land, you got to have tractors, so you got to have some help to get started into this business.
Well, it sounds like though we're going to have to probably put our heads together and address this issue because we all rely on it.
I agree. Again, to me, I think one of the things just worth repeating is when we have a healthy livestock and agriculture industry, we've got a healthy economic Mississippi.
Absolutely makes sense. Andy, thanks for coming on.
Sir.
Good to see you.
Appreciate you having me.
Andy Berry, president of the Mississippi Cattlemen's Association, has been our guest. We're at the Mississippi Trade Mart for 100 years of Faith, Family, and Farm Bureau. Coming right back with the final segment on Middays.